Hey guys, welcome to the Chaos Gym. This is Rahul, and today I wanted to talk to you about a new segment we're going to be doing called Rahul's Road to Worlds. Basically, this segment is just going to be me talking about every tournament I play in, my tournament experience. Did I get championship points or not? What I played, why I played it, and where I'm at in regards to Worlds. I thought this would be an interesting segment because it would be cool to see kind of how I understand the metagame and how I'm kind of shifting and changing throughout the season, and kind of helps you guys in a sense to see where you should be in regards to the metagame and just kind of it's like a tournament report, but I'm talking about it more or less. So I guess I'll just hop into it. I want to say this is the list I played. Um, it's very similar to the Vespiquen list that I have posted in my one of the other videos, but the key differences here I chose to play two Lysander because of just things to kill, and I'd like to take my EX prizes very quickly. Two Special Charge and two Revitalizer I found after testing for a while are really nutty because I have six Vespiquen effectively and eight DCEs, which is crazy. So I'm actually almost never out of resources, and I feel really awesome about that. There's only a 1/1 Zoroark because I really never attack with him unless I really need to. So, because people usually play around Zoroark, I had a 2/2 Garb originally in the deck, but after looking around the room at my league challenge yesterday, which was 6 rounds, we had 47 masters. Um, I quickly realized that Volcanion was the most popular deck, so I made the snap call to put in a Vaporeon. And this is exactly the list I played yesterday, and at a 6 round league challenge. So I guess without further ado, I guess I'll get into my report, seasoning, season, not seasoning, season report kind of thing. Yesterday was the first tournament I played of the season. After looking around the room, seeing a ton of Volcanion, I went ahead and played Vaporeon, and there was a ton of Volcanion, a ton of Rainbow Road, and a ton of Mega Scizor. Those were the three popular decks that I saw. Volcanion is a very difficult matchup for me if I don't have a way to one-shot anything with a Fighting Fury Belt early, or one of their EXs to choose to start swinging with that. Because as you can see, there's only 26 Pokemon in the deck, so I can't hit those big numbers that I want to hit really early into the game. Um, Scizor is a really bad matchup for me. I think I can win the game most of the time just because I can get to those big numbers late game to one shot things. But surviving past like turn 3 or 4 is the toughest thing because I have to hope they bench Shamans and take small prizes somewhere so I can stay in the game. And when I get to the late game, I can usually just win the game with my Vespiquens. But getting to the late game is the scary part. And conserving my resources is also very scary in that matchup. Because Scizor, all they need is energy, and if they set up a Garb, over half my deck is useless um, with the Garb. If they don't get a Garb out, if they don't play Garb, Klefki is really good in that matchup. So that's fantastic. Klefki's really good. I love Klefki. It's such a good card. Um, and against Rainbow Road, which is another matchup that is probably pretty important. You have to really try hard not to bench two Shamans, and if you do bench two Shamans, you have to be very careful with their Galvantulas because the way they win that matchup is they can't outrace you with their Xerneases. There's no way they can because even if they play a Super Rod, even if they play a Karen later in the season, probably Karen would probably kill this deck. Um, they're putting back uh, two Xerneases at most. So they have six Xerneases, but getting those guys powered up, they only have four DCs, maybe one special charge. They play EXP shares, good for them. They have to hit those EXP shares. That's the toughest thing for them. This deck just needs to hit its energy, and that's much easier for us to do. Hit our numbers. Xerneas isn't a tough knockout to take, 120 HP. If we do bench two Shamans and they play a 2/2 Galvantula line, all they have to do is hit two Shamans on the bench, and then hit again and take four prizes, and that's their win condition. If you're a Rainbow Road player playing against a Stage 1 rush deck like mine, it's basically a Swarm Slugger variant where I'm just smacking you in the face. You go for the Shamans. You have to avoid my attacker. And if you fall into the trap of attacking my attackers every turn, I'll get set up faster than you. I guarantee you I'll outspeed you, and late game you're gonna try to like end me to one, end me to two, whatever, and that's not gonna stop me because at that point my deck's gonna be like Shamans, VS Seekers, Sycamores, DCEs. Like the deck just thins itself out to the point where like late game ends, don't hurt me. Um, so I'll get into the tournament report. Round one, I played against a Rainbow Road. Tyler Chaplin over at the meta deck. He was playing a Rainbow Road with an Octillery version, and he pretty much had the deadest hand I've ever seen. So I just did a bunch of stuff, and I knocked him out in 2 turns. On my first turn, I did get the Forested Giant Plants going second to knock out his Remoraid. And then turn two, I knocked out his Xerneas, and that's all she wrote. The game was just over because he was drawing completely dead for 2 turns, and I just took those 2 turns to my advantage and just won the game. Because drawing slow against Vespiquen, you get really punished. Game two, I played against Mega Mewtwo. Um, Mega Mewtwo Garbodor, excuse me. And so he got off to a pretty mediocre start, not the best. And for the first 2 turns, I was also off to a mediocre start. So I was forced to swing with Zoroark because he had filled up his bench with Hoopas and Shamans and etc. etc. So I was able to hit his Hoopa twice for knockouts, and he had Shamans on his board, so he quickly realized that he had to get those off the board. And he only had one Mega Mewtwo set up because he couldn't draw into his links. I don't think he found a supporter off his like 3 Shamans or something. So he bounced his Shamans away, keeping his DCE, making sure my Zoroark was effectively useless. I was able to knock out that Hoopa, take 2 early prizes. He brought up the Mega Mewtwo, which was an incredible threat that I couldn't instantly deal with. So I used my Vespiquen to knock out his bench Shaman. I took the bench Shaman prize, and at this point I had a Vespiquen, 2 Vespiquen with DCE and a third Vespiquen that didn't have anything on it. So he proceeded to knock out my active Vespiquen. I promoted one. I had not nearly enough damage. I think I was doing like 130 at the time damage wise. So what I did was I benched a Shaman, attached to DCE, bounced the Shaman back to my hand, um, and then promoted the Vespiquen that didn't have any energy attached. So in that case, I was forcing him to have a Lysander, and if he had a Lysander knock out that Vespiquen, he wasn't going to end me that turn. And if he's not ending me to 2, I can Sycamore or Lysander a Shaman, just win the game. And I had like 6 Pokemon in my hand at that point, like 3 unknowns, and like more stuff that I just drew into off of a Sycamore the previous turn. So my hand was just all Pokemon, and I had like 3 cards in my deck, so I couldn't really use all the unknowns that turn because I wouldn't have gotten the one shot. So the following turn, I just Sycamore all those Pokemon away, and I can just win the game because I can one shot his Mewtwo. And he took a gamble by retreating into the other evolving into the other Mega Mewtwo without a Spirit Link and just passing basically. And I just Sycamore away all my Pokemon that I had and got the one shot on the Mewtwo, and that was the game. It's a tough matchup for Mega Mewtwo, I think. I also had the Clef Keys, so he was forced to like go around my Zoroark the one turn. Um, so Clef Keys was really good in that matchup. Once he got the Garb out, it was irrelevant, but Clef Keys pretty good. Round three, I was up against another Rainbow Road, but this time, rather than the EXP share Octillery variant, he was playing Fighting Fury Belts and Max Elixirs, which was a little scarier because 160 is a little tough for HP to hit. So I was forced to take 2 knockouts on Xerneas's, but at that point he had benched 2 Shamans, so I let those stick, and then I just ignored the Xerneas's and went right for the Shamans, and he didn't have an N, so I was just able to Lysander twice in a row and take 4 prizes. Even if he had the N, I would have knocked out the Xerneas, and he wouldn't have had a backup attacker. Oh, he had a Bisharp, I think, but like other than Bisharp, he wouldn't have had anything, and I had 2 Vespiquens set up, or 3 Vespiquens at the time. So I would have knocked him out. He would have knocked me out. I would have knocked out something else. He would have knocked something else out, and I would have won the game with my last prize. Like I said, Rainbow Road's just a really good matchup for me. I'm not very scared of it. They fill up their bench. Zoroark is a really good attacker in that matchup. If they play Octillery, oh, I've Garb. You just shut down almost all their draw power. If they play like the Garb Mew version, or not the Garb Mew version, Octillery Mew version, so I can just block that. Round four, I went up against Volcanion, and we both had pretty dead starts. Mine more so than his because he had energy, So he was using Power Heater. He just hitting me for like 20, and he whenever he drew an energy, he would just discard Steam Up and then Power Heater again. Because he hooped on his first turn after like two Shamans, he didn't have anything. My hand was like three. I like opened Clef Key, had like three VS Seekers, a Ranger, and like a Lysander, and that was my hand. So my game plan was to stall, and he had like the Float Stone and stuff like that. So I like stalled for like 4 turns, or no, like 7 turns actually, probably. And he'd taken 3 prizes at that point, and I Sycamored, and I literally only drew. I drew top deck a Sycamore, threw away all of my VS Seekers, drew into one Combi, benched the Combi, and passed it to him. He Lysandered my Combi, and then I picked up my cards because the game was over at that point. I would have to draw into Forest and Vespiquens and a bunch of other stuff and take 6 prizes before he could take two. And at that point, he had like two fully powered Volcanions. The game was over. It was just unfortunate for me because with a bad start like he had, I could have been able to punish him very, very hard with Vaporeon. And that matchup is usually favorable with Vaporeon, actually. But I just drew very poorly, and that's what I don't like about league challenges. You draw poorly 1 round, you're now fighting to get top four because usually there's two Exos and they can just ID, and first and second are just out of reach, which is exactly what happened. Um, Around four, around five. I went up against Evital Plume. Yeah, Evital Plume, and he did a bunch of stuff turn one. Put a DC on his Fright Knight. I two shot the Fright Knight with Vespiquen because I had like 100. I was hitting for 100 or something, like 120, I want to say. So I was barely off of the one shot the first time, and then I two shot it, and then he came up and knocked me out with Evital, and then I had like three unknown in my hand and clef keys, so I did a bunch of unknown clef key shenanigans to get to that 17 number, and then I used no, I got to like 15 or 16 damage, like 160, 150 damage, and then I Hex Maniac and had three Acrobikes in my hand. So I just Acrobiked. I just need to hit one Pokemon or two Pokemon, and that exactly what happened. And I was able to set up another Vespiquen and get my Hex back into my hand and knock out his Evital. And he made a gigantic misplay at that point because I put the Hex back in my hand, and I was out of VS Seekers. So uh, he's under the assumption that in my like 4 card hand I have Hex and another supporter, but I didn't. I didn't have another playable supporter in my hand. So he just promoted Shaman attached to the bench Evital EX and passed. And I was like, immediately asked him, why didn't you promote the Vileplume? Because I had the Hex, so Vileplume is effectively useless at this point. If you promote the Vileplume, let me knock it out. You have a chance to draw through your deck, get to your N. And he's like, he told me he did play N, so he had a chance to use his like Trainer's Mails, Acrobikes, whatever that was sitting in his hand. And he was like, oh, you're right. I knocked out the Shaman, went down to 1 prize. Um, and I had two Vespiquens, so even if he knocked out my active, I can win the game with the benched one. He Lysandered up my Shaman and passed. His strategy, I guess, was to deck me out because I had like 10 cards left in my deck, but I had two DCs left in my deck. So I literally just drew past until I found my DCE, retreated my Shaman, and won the game. And that was it. That was pretty self-explanatory. Like this deck without Battle Compressor doesn't seem like it runs fast, but it still does run very, very fast. You can't get those enormously massive numbers you used to be able to get, but you don't need to get those numbers anymore. Um, you can be content with like 100 damage on turn two, or like attacking with Zoroark on turn two and just waiting to attack with Vespiquen, and that's perfectly okay with me. I think I'm really a big fan of this deck, and it's a shame to see that Karen might destroy it entirely. But I had fun. Round six, I was up against Volcanion again, and that time he went off to a blazing good start, and I had a mediocre start. But with my mediocre start, I was able to get like a turn three Vaporeon out and knock out two of the baby Volcanions. And at that point, he Lysandered up my Vaporeon and killed it. And I only had like 10 Pokemon in the discard. And so I'm sitting here like, man, I'm in a lot of trouble because I can't one shot his Volcanion EX anymore. And then I literally like took a huge gamble, did a bunch of unknown stuff, went to like 12 or 13 Pokemon in the discard. I had like three Vespiquen set up again, so it's like really, I'm set up. I don't need any more Pokemon on the board. Everything's going to the discard from here on out. I was able to Lysander up a Shaman after digging pretty deep. I had V-Seekers in my hand, but I had no Lysanders on my discard, and I was like, I have both my Lysanders in the deck. I just need to find one, kill one of his Shamans, and then force him into a situation where he has to do something. And then I got the Shaman. He had two Shamans on his board, so I got one of the Shamans, and then went down to two prizes, and then he came back up with Flareon EX with a Fighting Fury belt, I think. Knocked out my Vespiquen after Sycamoring, so he didn't have the end. Or he had the end but chose not to play it. I don't know why. It wouldn't have mattered because my deck had three Shaman or something like that in it anyway, so I would have drawn through my deck unless I drew horribly, horribly bad to get to my Via Seekers and just Lysander up the other Shaman and win the game. So that's how the Volcanion matchup should go. I should be able to win because if they chase my Vaporeon, Vespiquen's alive and Zoroark's alive, and Zoroark can dish out massive damage in that matchup. Vespiquen can dish out massive damage in that matchup. Zoroark can help me kill baby Volcanions. Zoroark can help me take out Shaman prizes. I'm just gonna either my goal in that matchup is to kill two baby Volcanions and two EXs. That's it. I'm avoiding everything else. If you have a third baby Volcanion, good for you. You're gonna keep knocking me out. Have a fun time. I'm going after your bench. It's as simple as that. That's how I win that matchup. Volcanion is an incredibly hard matchup because the deck is just so consistent innately. It's terrifying. And standings go up. I get fourth at a 6 round LC. Those things suck, by the way. We finished at like 11 p.m. Um, I only played because it was my first tournament of the season, and I'm not entirely sure we're gonna get League Cups this summer quarter. So I'm trying to get my two finishes. Ideally, pick up a first top four, or like somewhere above 20 points. Something like 25 to 30 would be a good amount. I have another LC on Sunday, so I'll do another one of these on then. It's expanded, so I have no idea what to play. Um, any suggestions, please leave below, I guess. Um, Monday's another one. I might go to that one. With if League Cups get announced, League Challenge this quarter, League Challenges mean nothing, more or less. But with all the time constraints, like I think there's pre-releases happening on weekends. Um, there's regionals for Arizona. There's regionals for Orlando. It's just that I think they're incredibly hard to schedule with less than a month. Um, so I think this quarter we won't have any the way things are set up. I think this quarter we're gonna just not have any league challenges. I mean league cups, sorry, and we're just gonna have league challenges. So 30 points I think is the max from this quarter. And then if you guys haven't checked it out, go to All Day Games, check out the tournament structure for this season. Go to someone's PC. They both did great videos on explaining what's going on this season and why it's now 500 points to qualify for the World Championships in Anaheim. Um, I was on the one with All Day Games. There's also the Super Rod cast that I was a part of the podcast talking about that as well. So check those guys out as well. We, it's just like overall, if you do the math, 330 points coming from league challenges slash league cups is your potential at this point. Potentially 400 if they schedule some in next month. I don't think so. So 330. So the remaining 170, you've got intercontinentals, a best finish limit of 4. So if you have the money to travel to those things, you're basically guaranteed points. 8 regionals finishes. So even a mediocre regionals finish gets you points, and it's worth something at this point. Just breaking even will put you in top 64, which gets you like 15 points or something. Which isn't bad in the grand scheme of things if you think about it. So 500 is difficult. It'll cut down our numbers from Worlds from last year a lot, I think. Probably have it, but it's attainable. It's definitely attainable. I'm very excited for this season. We'll see what happens. If you guys enjoyed this video, if you guys enjoyed this segment, be sure to like, subscribe, let me know if you enjoyed it, because if you don't, I can just kill it. I don't really need to talk about my season. I thought it would be cool to keep you guys updated on all the tournaments I go to, give you a little bit of an insight how my mind works, I guess, seeing how I switch from deck to deck, tournament to tournament. I won't do one for everything, maybe. I'll probably just do ones for tournaments that I've picked up championship points for, maybe, or tournaments that I bombed so horribly. I want to talk about why I bombed so horribly, like going 0-3 drop and saying why I made a bad meta call for the day or something like that. Um, so yeah, you guys can follow my road to National Worlds 2017. Hopefully it's a good road. Hopefully we can come back in a couple months from now and say good luck at Worlds, Rahul. If it's a bad road, hey, whatever. We're on this road together. We're on this journey together. Thank you guys for all the support. Once again, I'm Rahul with the Chaos Gym. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow